Hello everybody, this is thejonnymar, and welcome to my next walkthrough project. So I am going to be playing, as you can see, Final Fantasy II for the PSP. And this is the actual Final Fantasy II, this is not the Super Nintendo Final Fantasy II, which was actually, for those of you that are aware, Final Fantasy IV, because this version of the game actually did not come over to the United States until much, much later in the game's life cycle. And that is because basically it was considered to be too polarizing of a game. It is a very polarizing game in the series. People tend to kind of tolerate it or hate its guts. I'm not sure anyone actually loves the game or not. I'm sure there's people out there that do. I tolerate it. But we are going to be playing this wonderful game, such as it is, because it has been requested by my viewers, and it is the next game in the series, so I do want to play the games through in chronological order, and since I've done Final Fantasy I already, we will move on to Final Fantasy II. So just like the first game in the series, we can start a new game, we can load a game, and we have extras. So we are going to be starting a brand new game, and in this version of the game, you can choose which language you want to use. We are, of course, going to use English. And you also can name your characters. So I'm going to leave the names of the characters as all of the defaults. In the original version that came to the US for the PS1, the Final Fantasy Origins version, Guy was actually called Gus for some reason. But I'm going to shut up after confirming these names, and I'll let you all watch the intro. Not quite as special as the redone version for the PSP and also the original PS1 version. But we are thrust right into a battle here against some Black Knights. So we have our four main characters, Furion, Maria, Guy, and Leon, who can do kind of standard attacks. You'll see that they have various weapons equipped. They're not at the highest level, but, you know, we would assume that this fight isn't going to be that difficult since it is the first fight of the game. Now you notice that handedness is something of note in this game, depending on whether your characters are right or left-handed. Leon is, of course, left-handed. They will do more damage with their weapons. So we're just going to attack with everybody and see what happens. Holy crap. Okay. Well, that means we should get out of here. Run away! And we died. Okay. So, the future refused to change. Yes, those are corpses. Maybe it's not corpses. Maybe we're still alive. Through the power of the raise spell, I command you to come back to life. Maybe they're using some Phoenix Down. Alright, well that's good. We have a powerful will to live. I'm going to assume that these are two main characters, Hilda and Minwoo, because they have portraits. And as we know with early RPGs, if a character has a portrait, especially in these remakes, that means they're important. They did not have portraits in the original version of this game. If you happen to play the NES version, it was only released in Japan. I'm not sure if it had an international release, maybe. But there is a version of it that has been fan-translated. And I think some other people have LP'd that version. That version is significantly different than the remade versions. The storyline and the characters are basically the same, but the leveling system is a little bit different, and the stats are a lot different. And in fact, they fixed a lot of the stat bugs that the early Final Fantasy games are kind of infamous for. If they would have waited a few more seconds, we would have woke up. But here we have Firion. And he is without his compatriots. You may have remembered from that scene that there was only 3 of them. Leon was not there, so they must have grabbed him and took him with when they knocked us out. Yeah, it'll take more than massive amounts of internal bleeding to stop me. Or him, I guess. Since it is a named character, which again is, in an entirely different direction for this series. It's not me, basically. Although I could have named him after myself. But yes, we are without Leon, so we'll have to see if we can find him eventually. But we are automatically taken into this particular room to meet with Hilda. Yes, it was a quick recovery. I'm a fast healer. I think that should have been a question, actually. We will be a great asset to you after getting completely destroyed. Yeah, and probably a burden, too, if you have any seasoned warriors. Oh, well, we have no place to go. Our homes were burned. Don't you remember that full motion cinema? Alright, so she's not going to let us join the army under any circumstances. Keep that in mind. So we'll just kind of hang out here in Altair. Password. Oh, okay. Wild Rose. And unique to this particular game, you actually learn key terms. So use the learn button. You can pick up a term and then you can ask it back to the person. And you will have to do this at various points throughout the game to unlock kind of the next area of the storyline. So get in the habit of asking pretty much everyone that has a portrait, at least, for these versions of the game, any of the key terms that you have, because it should unlock unique information, or it might be what you have to do to continue the storyline. So Leon might be held in Finn, but Finn is too dangerous. However, I feel like we're probably going to be heading over there. And this is a white wizard named Minwoo. And yes, we'll have to speak with him. But before we do that, I, of course, am going to change some of my configuration options. I'm going to turn dashing on and change my message speed to fast, so I don't have to wait for all of you to stop kind of blathering on with your babbling. And you can mess with the other kind of configuration stuff if you want. I'm going to leave everything else pretty much at default. And then I'm also going to change Maria to the front line. As with other Final Fantasy games, if you're in the front line, you will take more damage, but do more physical damage. And if you're in the back line, you will take less damage, but you can only attack with long-range weapons and also with magic. So let's talk to Minwu. So you're entwined with us. Does that mean you want to join us? We certainly could use a white wizard. Or a priest. Or a white mage, depending on the Final Fantasy game. Alright. Well, it is an RPG. So that means we'll have to kind of walk around and talk to people. This game is very, very text-heavy, as you might expect, and it is a very grindy game, too. And we will talk about the grinding next time, because that is going to take quite a bit of time to discuss the leveling system. Ooh, canoe. That's in green, which means that's probably an important term for us to learn eventually. Why shouldn't we go there? So it's taken over by the Empire. Gatria, huh? Alright, and then he tells us about essentially the adventurers room or the training room, or, you know, basically a place you can go and learn about the basics of combat and items and things like that. And it's back in the room where we woke up, where Minwu was actually healing us. That's over here to the left. So you can talk to all of these guys. They'll give you particular tips, or you can just, you know, rely on what I tell you, which I'll walk you through all the basics. And next we want to talk to one more key character, and that is this guard to the left. No, it's the king, of course. The king is required at various times in the storyline to talk to kind of advance things, so it's good to know where he is. Well, an arrow in the back. I'm not sure being old makes a difference with that. That's kind of devastating for pretty much everyone. I mean, yeah, it took quite a few arrows to take down Boromir, but, you know, one arrow, that's usually pretty good. So this game does have a pretty weird leveling system. It is going to take quite a while to talk about it. So like I said, I will save that until next time. What I'm going to do for the rest of this episode is walk around and talk to people. We're going to find out a little bit about some of the other characters in this game. I'm going to pick up some items that are available, and also some equipment. So there's not much else going on in this particular little building. But we do find out that Hilda is kind of stepping in for her father while he's recovering. So if we head outside, we'll meet one of the other special characters. And that is the thief down here named Paul, or a treasure hunter, if you want to call it that. And if you use the password on him, you'll find out that he will not steal from you, because he only steals from the Imperials. Now there are a couple other special characters in town I want to make sure that I talk to. But before we talk to the next one, remember back to the intro of this episode, not the previous, the actual cinematic. But we saw this character, Gordon, kind of fleeing from the little scene where the Imperial soldiers were attacking the kingdom's throne room. And this was the guy that kind of ran off the screen immediately. So he is lacking courage. A little bit of a cowardly lion. And I'm not going to laugh at you, but maybe eventually we can help you get that courage back. But you notice there are various shops. There's an item shop. There was an inn back there. There is the sanctuary right here where you come if one of your characters dies, and you can revive them. And then of course there's also a weapon shop and an armor shop, and then also a magic shop. So you do have to buy magic in this game, just like in the first game. Unlike in the first game though, you are not limited to particular classes. You can actually teach any amount of magic, any type of magic, to any character. But there is a limit on the amount. You can only have up to 16 spells. So we're going to start out in the weapon shop. We're going to talk to Tabul, or Tobul, or whatever you want to call it. And he is a skilled blacksmith, hiding out here in the weapon shop. He doesn't have a portrait, so that should tell you a little bit about him. And you'll notice there are various weapons here that we can buy. So let's talk about the starting equipment. So what I'm going to do is unequip basically the weapons on all of the characters. Now, one of the characters you're going to want to specialize in each of the different types of weapons. Now, the best weapons to use are single-handed weapons because you want to make sure that you're equipping a shield on all of your characters. Evasion in this game is very important because it gets calculated in not only your defensive statistics, but also your attack statistics. So you want to make sure that you have as high of evasion as possible. And so if we look at their statistics, you'll see they have a decent amount of evasion to start off with. But each of the characters kind of starts with vanilla statistics or basic baseline statistics of around 10 in most of the major stat categories. And a few of them, Maria is a little bit better in agility and intelligence, and then Guy is a little bit better in strength and stamina. So as you might expect, we're going to want to focus Guy on physical attacks, we're going to want to focus Maria on magic, and then Furion is kind of our average Joe, so to speak. So what we're going to do with him is actually have him serve as a white mage. So he'll be an attacker, but also a healer. Maria will be our black mage, so she'll focus on, attack magic. And then Guy will just be a full-on tank. He'll be attacking and also defending as needed. Now you can buy a knife. Some of the knives in the game are actually pretty good, but there is a character that you're going to encounter later in the game that actually specializes in knives. So in the meantime, I am going to equip a javelin on Furion and a staff on Maria in their dominant hands, and I'm going to let Guy focus on broadswords. Now for equipment in terms of armor, I do want a shield on everybody. And then because Furion and Guy start with leather armor already, what I'm going to do is just equip a cap and gloves on Maria. Because if you actually equip all of the leather stuff on Guy and Furion, it will actually dramatically decrease their evasion. And like I said, especially early on, evasion is very important. So we want to make sure that we have as much as possible. The last thing we need to do is go to the magic shop. That is on the far western side of town. Eventually we're going to want to purchase some attack magic, but for now we're going to start with just a cure spell, and I will teach that to Furion because he will be our white mage. And next time I will go into more depth about the battle system and also leveling. So as always, viewers, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you all next time as we continue onward in this very, very interesting Final Fantasy outing, where we head towards the town of Finn. So long!